y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you from my basement in North Carolina. It's too dark outside to film, but I got a buddy of mine here that he's a through hiker for the class of 2020, and he decided to stop in and say hey. Went and had a little bit of dead pig over at Bridges Barbecue here in Shelby, North Carolina, and we just been having a great time doing a little bit of trail talking and just kind of hanging out. So Poncho, appreciate you coming down and hanging out for a while. He's going to be in the area doing a couple hikes in the area, kind of checking out his gear and checking out what he's going to be taking on the trail with him. And who you going to be seeing while you're down here?
It's going to be me, Take a Hike Mike, and then Tribute or Michael Watchorn, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
Or a charging station. I don't know. He's got too many names.
Well, now, why does he call himself Charging Station?
Well, he just now started doing the charging station thing from where he's doing the trail magic and stuff. He put a poll up on Facebook, and people could choose a name, and that's what stuck. So I guess it's who you talk to.
So does he actually have electronics where people can charge something? No?
Not that I know of. He has stickers that say charging station.
Well, yeah, but stickers ain't going to charge your iPhone, so
it works.
That's hilarious. Well, Tribute, if you're watching this, we appreciate what you're doing out there. Coming all the way, you say it's from Kansas, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, coming all the way from somewhere in the Midwest, Kansas, we think, and appreciate you coming out here doing trail magic. I saw your video you dropped with Happy, so that was pretty cool, so we appreciate all that.
What got you into hiking at the beginning? Was you in nature a lot when you was a kid, or did you grow up and finally get into it?
Yep. Well, I was a Boy Scout, and I'm an Eagle Scout. Once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout. And so we spent a lot of time backpacking, spent a lot of time hiking. I had a great scoutmaster, and spent just a little bit of time on the Appalachian Trail, not a lot of time on the AT. But the time that I spent, it just amazed me that you could stand on that trail and look north, and I could get on that trail and walk all the way to Maine. And you'd see it disappear between trees or disappear over the hill, and the white blazes would disappear. But I could look that way, and I could literally on the same trail walk all the way to Maine, and I could turn 180 degrees and do the same thing and walk all the way to Georgia. So that just always intrigued me, and just kind of the mystery of where did that trail go once it disappeared around that bend. And so that's kind of how I got into hiking, through Boy Scouts. But that introduction to the Appalachian Trail is kind of what really piqued my interest. And I was young, and so then I went to college and the Army, and then back to college, and then started a career, raised a family, and did not spend much time out as much. I was an assistant scoutmaster, and so we did spend a little bit of time on the Appalachian Trail with my other scouts, and so that kind of got it back in my blood. And then I started, one day I just was messing around YouTube, and I came across a bunch of thru hikers. That was probably, 2-3 years ago, when I really kind of started getting back into backpacking, and I started thinking more about the Appalachian Trail. And then my mom said, "Hey, I got a book I read," and that was the Walk in the Woods book, which is a disappointment to me after I read the book, because he didn't even finish the trail, and yet he's got this book and made millions off of it. But that's another story. But I did enjoy the book up to the point where he bailed.
It's a pretty good book.
Yeah, it is. I just he didn't finish it, which it's okay if you don't finish it, but I don't know how you get a book out of it. But anyway, but that kind of really piqued my interest and kind of intrigued, got me back into the AT. I guess my mom talking about it, and she's always kind of liked things like the AT and thought about it, and so that's kind of. And then last year started doing a lot more hiking on it. Got back into doing more hiking, and then started doing the updates and following more through hikers and stuff, and getting back into the hiker community, and which when I say getting back into it, I really was not part of it like I am now, and just didn't really have the same appreciation for the hiker community now that I did. Then that I do now, just because I'm so much deeper into it, so much more a part of it as far as being on the outside.
It definitely changed your perspective of it.
Oh, it completely changes your perspective about it. And the thing about the hiker community is, I'm a Christian, go to church, been in Boy Scouts, beekeeper, you name it, scuba diver, pilot's license. I've just got all this junk that I've been collected, all these certifications I've collected over, a lifetime. And my favorite has been, and now don't get me wrong about being a Christian or anything. I mean, that is my favorite. That's where my spirit and my soul is. But the community, by and large, the hiker community is what I enjoy the most, because they're the most real. And you get out there and everybody's the same. Doctor, lawyer, contractor, somebody works at Walmart. It doesn't matter. You're the same as everybody out there. You're all walking the trail, the same trail. You're all going through the same aches and pains. You're all walking in the same rain, the same cold, eating the same cruddy food for the most part, but loving it. And so it's that's the thing about the hiker community, that you're just on an even footing with everybody. So that's what I really enjoy.
And I think it's pretty interesting where you have so many people go to the trail for many different reasons.
Yeah.
And want to get different things out of the same trail, and then that brings people from all over the place together, like you were saying, because you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Even though one person came for this reason, the other person came from maybe a different country for this other reason.
Right.
It's a way to bring people together that's similar enough to get along, but not too close to the same, so it's still interesting to meet each other.
Oh, there's a lot of interesting people out there. There's no doubt about that. A lot of different personalities. Everybody's so different, and you go from people like me that I don't have a tattoo on me, to people that are just that's all they are, is tatted up. And so it's just all walks of life. It brings people together, and it really is a giant melting pot out there. And so those are things that I just enjoy the most about it. You can walk into camp. It doesn't matter who's around the shelter, who's at camp. You walk in there and you're on an equal footing with them, and you can strike up a conversation. And there's always something you talk about, right, on the Appalachian Trail. It always goes to gear, or that hill we just climbed, or the one we're going to be climbing in the morning, or I'm sick and tired of eating oatmeal. So there's always some type of camaraderie, some type of fellowship, something you can talk about with folks on the trail. So.
One thing, you've hiked some of the Appalachian Trail. Yeah. What is your favorite section you have hiked?
Oh, my favorite section that I've hiked, now, full disclosure, never been a thru hiker. Plan on doing it for my retirement gift. If I can't talk my bosses into giving me a 5 or 6 month leave of absence before I retire, then when I do retire, that's going to be my gift to me. And so that's going to either be in about 5 years or maybe 7 years. But my favorite part that I've hiked, and I've hiked all the way, I've done everything from Springer to into Tennessee and a little bit above there, but that's everything continuous except for a short section, about 60-mile section there from north of Hot Springs to Hughes Gap, which is just before you get into Roan Mountain Highlands. But Roan Mountain Highlands is by far my favorite section of the trail. And I like Grayson Highlands in the Mount Rogers area. That's gorgeous up there too, and the ponies add just another dimension to it. Never been there when there were steer, so I don't know how I'd be around longhorn cattle up there. But the ponies are really neat. But being up at Roan Mountain, it's like being somewhere like you're in the Sound of Music. And when I went through last year, the Over Mountain Shelter was still open. Now it's closed.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. I hate that for the class of 2020 and just everybody in general, because that's such an iconic shelter that people stay at. And I hope that some of these people like REI and some of these other people will come forward with some money and let's get this thing refurbished so that it can stay there. Because it's really really, and it's historic value not just for the trail, but the Over Mountain men came from over in Tennessee, and they came into Kings Mountain, North Carolina, which is only 15 miles away from here, and they were the turning point of the Revolutionary War. And if it hadn't been for the Over Mountain men, then we may be speaking British now, with the King's English. So they came and defeated Major Patrick Ferguson at the Battle of Kings Mountain. And so, that Over Mountain shelter was supposedly one of the places that they stayed. And I don't think the barn was there then, but that area was where they stayed. And that's how the barn was named, the Over Mountain shelter. And so that's such an iconic place on the shelter that I hate y'all are not going to get to stay there. There is you'll get to see it, and there's a field out there where everybody puts their tents up, so that'll be cool. But that whole section through Roan Mountain Highlands in there is just you can 360-degree views in the balls with no trees on them, and even coming up to when you're coming through actually Roan Mountain and you're going through where the old hotel used to be, you'll pass an old chimney. You'll pass the old foundations of the old hotel. There is the highest shelter on the Appalachian Trail, which is the Roan Mountain Shelter, is there. It is through that area there. So before you get to the hotel, you'll pass the chimney, and then you need to start looking for the shelter. And the shelter is off the trail like 1/10 of a mile, but you'll see a post that points up to it. And that is it's the highest shelter on the AT, higher than anything even up north. So you at least need to go up there if you're not going to stay there. But it's a fully enclosed, and it was an old, it used to have an old fire tower there, and so this was an old fire warden cabin that they've refurbished. And so it's actually the building that the fire warden who manned the tower used to live in. So it's got a double decker and a front door to it, and shut the door and windows and all that neat stuff. So I'd encourage you, if you don't stay there, to at least go up there to it, and just to see it. I've stayed there before, and then went on, continued north, went on through the Roan Mountain Highlands. So that's really a gorgeous area up through there, and you get past Over Mountain Shelter, and then the next section up through Little Hump and Hump Mountain. Again, is all above. Well, it's not above tree line. It's not above tree line naturally. It's all been cut, and then it's been mowed, and now they keep cattle up there to keep the grass down. The National Park Service does, but there's no trees up there. It's all bald. So that's my favorite section, where you can see just see out for miles and miles, and you can see Tennessee and North Carolina. On a clear day, you can see down into South Carolina, so it's pretty neat up there.
Okay, you've seen a lot of the numbers and stuff from the past 2 years?
Yeah,
2 years. You've seen them. Now, from your perspective, do you see how people maybe are changing their start dates from where they used to?
No, they're all starting at the same time. Okay. Now I have seen there's probably more flip floppers now. And you can go back even several years, 5 years ago, and look at some data. And there is more flip floppers now than there was, but by and large, you still have that big huge bubble that starts in February and goes all the way to through March and into the first of April. Yeah, April 15th, and then it really drops off after April 15th. But yeah, so and that bubble, the thing about that bubble is it pretty much stays together for the first, at least when they get into, people start dropping off in dribs and drabs, but at least till they get to Hot Springs. And then usually people say if you make it to Hot Springs, you're going to make it, barring an injury or something like that. But it really starts dropping off a lot before the Smokies, because people have already been out there on the trail like for over a week, and so now they figured out they don't They don't like being wet and cold. You know, having to get up in the morning and put on cold clothes.
And that's what happens when you start in February and March.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, not cold clothes, cold and wet clothes, and cold and frozen clothes. And so it doesn't, it's a self-correcting error that people don't sleep with their clothes that first time they get wet in their sleeping bag and it freezes. Because, you can't get a frozen shirt on. You can't get frozen socks on. You're going to have to sit on them or make a fire or something. So it's kind of hard to make a fire when you're in your sleeping bag and you can't get to your clothes. You're gonna be making a fire in your underwear, and then it's too cold to make a fire to get out of your bag. So, that's where I see people, a lot of drop off. But once you get to hot spring, most people make it. The bubble pretty good stays together, and it starts dropping off. People start dropping off the trail in Virginia, particularly middle to the top of Virginia, because the Virginia blues, and they get tired again of being cold and wet. They get homesick, but they also start getting injuries. Their body starts breaking down there, and you find pretty quickly if you've got the right weight in your pack and how well that's going to do. And people start getting rid of stuff pretty quick. If they don't, then it's going to lead to injuries and things like that. Their body's just, and it's going to beat them down too. They just get weary from carrying so much weight, for so long. When you first get out there, you're like, I'm good. But, you're burning thousands of calories a day, and you're not putting that much back in your body. And so after a while, that starts taking a toll on your body, and that, 40 pounds that you started out with, that you were very capable of carrying in at Springer or Amicalola Falls State Park if you're doing the approach trail. By the time you get to Winding Stair Gap, you're beat. You're already 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks into it, and you're beat because you've lost weight, you've lost those energy reserves, and if you hadn't got rid of some of that weight on your back, there's a good chance that you're going to be coming off for an injury, or you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people talk about, it doesn't matter if you can carry the weight, you can carry the weight. And, for me personally, the trail is a lot more enjoyable when I'm out with a lighter pack. Like, if you take the extreme of going out and having a pack, a winter load for 4 days with 4 days worth of food versus just a day hike. I really like a day hike with just what I need for the day on my pack. So, the happy medium between that for, going out for 3 days, with the minimal amount of gear that you need, it makes a difference for me in how much I enjoy my hike and not having to constantly worry about that weight.
Yeah.
And heavy weights, you can get injured too. The heavier your pack, the more momentum you got, and you stumble or something, and you're going tea kettle over keister down a hill, you'll go that way a lot faster with a heavier pack than you will with something that you can control.
Yeah.
So.
And I'd say the type of pack you have really makes a difference.
The type of pack, but also the fitting of your pack.
Yeah.
Make sure you got a pack that fits you. You want a pack that is close to you. Now me, I wear a pack. Any pack I have has got an arch system in it because I get hot back here, and so I want, at the end of the day, I don't want to be just drenched in sweat on my back.
Yeah.
So I like the arch systems where you can get air moving.
Yeah.
But you still got to adjust those properly to where they're not loose and moving around a lot. So, and then the non-arch systems that they're on their pack, you want to wear those as tight as you can, so you can control those. Because if you move this way right here and you got a loose pack, that momentum of that pack, the weight's it's not gonna stop when you stop. It's gonna stop when you stop. It's gonna keep on going and then drag you like an anchor with it.
You could pull a muscle or anything going
on. Well, you could pull a muscle, but the worst thing is it pull you off the trail and down the hill, fall on a rock or something like that. So, the Appalachian Trail, everywhere I've been, and this, mostly in the South, everywhere I've been, it ain't nothing but rocks and roots. There is some dirt places and things like that, but for the most part, particularly going uphill, downhill, it's rocks and roots.
It's the mountains.
Yeah, it is, but what also exposes a lot of the rocks and roots is the erosion.
Yeah.
From the rains and stuff, and so it's they'll reach up and bite you. So you got to be able to control that pack on your back. So you got to have the right pack that's fitted for you, and you got to wear it right. People that just go in the store and buy it off the rack, you need to go get somebody to fit you a pack. Because I made the mistake of buying one just off the rack, and when I didn't know any better, and I said, "Hey, I need me a big old pack so I can carry more stuff." Well, the Boy Scouts used to call me refrigerator because my backpack was as heavy as a refrigerator, and I was carrying everything known to man in the thing that I needed, and I guarantee you it weighed 55 pounds. So it doesn't weigh half that now. So it makes a difference in, for me, how much I enjoy the trail. The lighter the pack, the more I'm having a good day out there.
One thing to anybody that might use an ARC haul, anytime you put it in your tent or overnight, you need to take the ARC out of it or to get all tangled up, and it's a mess to mess with.
What do you mean? You mean like actually let it go flat?
Yeah, let it go flat.
Why is that?
I didn't when I was on. I never had any problems until I was on the Shadow Weeks race, and I had it in my tent, and I rolled over on my backpack overnight, and it twisted the little clip over itself, and I was sitting there messing with that thing for probably 30 minutes to get it all straightened back up, and I re-ran it and everything, and it just seems like if you throw it in a car or something with it all arced, if it rolls over on itself and it hits it just right, it's just gonna mess it up. So I
hadn't thought of that.
I just say just undo it, and you could always set it up. Because when you have different weight or something else in your pack, you're going to want the arc a little different anyway. It makes a little difference.
Cool. Well, I've got the Arc Blast, which is a smaller version of that. So I had an Exos 58, and I have a small size, which actually is rather than 58 liter, it's a 55 liter. So the Arc Blast is a 55 liter, but the Exos has more pockets in it.
Yeah.
Particularly, it's got a brain on it, and that's the only thing I miss about that is that not having all those compartments.
Don't have as much organization.
To organize right. So, and I don't feel like I've got the same amount of room in that Arc Blast as I had in that Exos, and I don't know how they compute how much room is in there. Are they comparing? Is Z-Pack saying, okay, the mesh lining counts, and Osprey is saying no, the mesh on the outside, we don't include that in our amount? I don't know. But I don't feel like I have the same amount of room because before I had plenty of room and I had too much room. But now in that Arc Blast, I got just barely enough room. So
I feel like I have a little too much, unless I'm doing a long stretch. Like I've got it. It works really well for what I'm going to use it for.
Okay.
I believe. Now I get out there and I might say, you talk to me in a month from now when I'm on trail, I might tell you something different. I might go off and say this is the worst pack ever, but right now it's a good pack and it has enough room.
Well, you've already hiked with it on Saturday.
Oh, I've hiked quite a few trails, but it might be a little different, going from hiking a weekend or 4 days to nonstop for a month. It give you different impressions on stuff. Yeah. It goes from just something you're carrying and use a couple times and then take it back to practically your car. You can almost call it your car. It's what holds where you go with. So, like right now, I love my Z-Pack's duplex. I love the duplex, but after it's my home for a month or two, I might tell you I don't like it anymore. So